This is the new Absolute Navetta 64. It's a very nice boat, but there are two things about it that are absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to take you on board, give you the full tour and show you what those things are. So we're going to step on here. We're going to avoid this area for the minute because that is one of them, but there is something else as well. And we're going to head up onto the aft deck, and as ever we're going to go into every area. We're going to go to the crew area, the engine space, the cabins, the day spaces, a lot. And we're going to start here in the cockpit. This has got the optional divided tables. It's quite a nice idea because they fold out to make one complete table, but when you're just having a drink out here, people can get in and out without having to shuffle around the whole lot, so that's nice. Loads of room out here for directors' chairs and that kind of thing as well. And then if we head on inside first of all, we'll drop that back like that. It's a galley aft layout, and you can drop this window down so that will disappear and really connect these two areas. Some very nice finishes on here. I love the woodwork. I love things like the grab rail they've put in here, and these surfaces on the top all gels together very nicely. Also what I like is the fact that there's a dining area right next to it. That works really well, so when you're eating here it's really easy to pass things across. If we head forward a bit further, there is that glass panel there, incidentally, will rise up or fall away completely, so if you want to divide this off slightly you can do. And look at this lovely lounging area here. Doesn't that look inviting? I think that's really nice. You've got a high-low TV, of course. This is storage along here, and then it's got the raised area for the helm. It's a kind of trawler yacht style, this. So you've got the forward sloping windscreen. Actually, it's a really big pane right across here. So you've got a tremendous view out. You don't have the central mullion that a lot of them have got. And that's your view out of Cannes. Wonderful place. So, this is the helm station. You've got the two seats here, really comfy looking seats, and they have lift bolsters, which do two things. First of all, if you prefer to stand, then you can just lift that up and lean against it, but also makes it very easy to walk through and out, and there's a side door there out onto the side deck. You've got these two pods here that hold the multifunction displays, and these display anything from the ship systems that we've got on here through to navigation and radar and all that kind of stuff. The Volvo engine instrumentation is displayed here, and then you've got the controls for the engines and the IPS controller and so forth. But it's quite neat the way that they've mounted everything flush. If you look, all of this along here is all flush mounted in, you see, and there as well. All very smooth. I like this little area up here. People can come and sit and have a chat. And this boat's about going away for long periods, so it's great to have all these different little areas where you can tuck yourself away. So that is the main deck. But the first of the brilliant features is when we go down here, because what they've done is, rather than putting the master cabin right down in the centre of the boat as you often find on this style of boat, they've put it on like a half deck. So we're not all the way down because the lower deck is down here. It's here. So it's still reasonably high in the boat, and that means if you think of the V of the hull coming up, you can imagine the higher up you bring it into that V, the wider it gets. And so you end up with a really voluminous cabin. You've got these fantastic windows looking out like so. Got a little seat in here. Of course, the big bed, AV equipment. What they do on these, in fact, it isn't actually fitted so you can choose what you want, but all the pre-wiring is there, so it's really easy to fit whatever you fancy. If we go around onto this side, then there's a little dressing table. It's quite nice the way they've combined the gloss finishes with the matte finishes. I think that works well. That is just a little lift up section like so. And you've got storage then in places like this. It's all very nicely done. And I like these sorts of features like this. There's a bit of a theme with this boat to have these sections of wood, and then you've got the headboard across there. It all looks really good. If we head over here, these little round fellows, incidentally, these are portholes. They open so you can get a bit of air through here if you want to. And then the ensuite, that is through here. And typical of Absolute, they put a pocket door in. So this slides out and across like that, so you don't have the door taking up space when it's open. And if you go on in, this is that ensuite. So the loo is in here, and then there's a nice rainfall shower over there. And again, you've got one of those portholes so you can get plenty of air and ventilation through here if you want it. That's a really nice size, actually. In fact, that whole area, I think that works very well. It's quite clever putting that in the bow because you do have less space as the boat comes in, obviously at the front. And so to use that as a heads compartment rather than a sleeping cabin, I think that's neat. Let's come around here. We can take this all in and then we'll head on because, as I mentioned, this is on like a half deck. The actual lower deck is further on down here. And this is intriguing because what they've done is put two guest cabins back here. This one is a really nice size. In fact, that looks like a master cabin, doesn't it? It's not. That's your VIP guest cabin. But that is a lovely area. Again, you're seeing these really nice finishes, and again, this is pre-wired, so if you want to put a TV in there, you can do. If you don't, then you just have that nice feature as it is. And like we saw in the other cabin, we're seeing the gloss finishes and the matte finishes combined. And if we go around on this side, it's actually got a proper walk-in wardrobe. Look at that. So that closes across like so. And the other thing it's got in here is the ensuite. It's almost like a bit of a feature with the way that they've displayed this, but what you have then is more pocket doors that slide together. So you want to close that off, you just do that. It's nifty, isn't it? Because how else would you close off such a big area without having massive flappy doors everywhere? I think that's great. Let's come into here. Now the shower is over on this side, like so. You've got storage underneath, of course, and then the toilet is over there. So that is one of the guest cabins. It's the larger of the two, so that's cabin 2. And then if we head this way, this is slightly mind-bending because you've just got like this central pillar here, and you think, well, that's a bit odd, isn't it? But it's clever because there are pocket doors, and depending on how you configure them, if you slide that one across, that heads is an ensuite to cabin 3. So all the cabins have their own ensuites. If you slide that one across, well, of course, that gives you privacy in there, but also it means that if you access from this side, you've got day heads. So that is rather cunning. And then we come into here. That is a very nice cabin 3. A load of headroom in through here, all the way through. Nice big beds, and again, a lovely big hull window, albeit we've got another absolute right next to us, so you can't really see the full benefit of that at the minute. And the thing that I think is brilliant, one of the two things that I think is particularly brilliant is, okay, so we're on a slightly lower deck to that forward cabin. And if you remember, that's not on the main deck, that's kind of halfway down from the main deck because that goes on around there. And you'll also remember possibly that the bed goes that way, and that's important because there's nothing under that bed except there is. Come and look at this. What we have now is this doorway. It's taking us directly under that bed, and the height that is creating is giving this utility area. How lovely is this? So you've got your washing machine in here, you've got a load of storage, and things like the vacuum cleaner is built into here as well. That, for a boat that you might want to be spending a bit of time on, is genius. Look at all this space for bedding or whatever you want to keep on here. Just fantastic. And it doesn't stop here, because what do we got here? Another door. On we go again. Now this drops because it's the end of the bed, and you're into the floor space at the head of the bed, and then forward to the heads compartment. But look at the space it's got. I mean, you are now going right to the very front of the boat. I think if you go right to the very front, you actually see the bow thruster. That's how far forward we are. You can get to engineering systems, plumbing, electrics, all that kind of stuff, but you've also got a load of storage for all the gear that normally in a boat like this you just don't have space for. I think that's a fantastic idea, I really do. You can see how deep we are into the hull because you can actually see down here the hull coming up the sides, so right down into the V. Isn't that genius? Okay, let's spin on round. So that is our lower deck. 2 cabins there. And the third, which is the master, up here. And we come on round, we go past the electrical systems. So that's all the circuit breakers and so on. There's a wine cooler here as well. And we'll head on up and we'll take a turn around the deck. I think, in fact, let's go out through this side door. And then we'll take in the Flybridge. There's a crew cabin, there's the engine space, and there's something else, the second brilliant thing. So that opens like that. And now we're straight out onto the decks. This is brilliant for when you are owner operating, because it means that, you know, it's just a couple of you on the boat, you've got instant access to go and drop a line over or whatever else. I love these rails. I love the way they're flat sections rather than just tubular like the boat next door. Storage up here for deck gear, and then a very nice forward cockpit area. So you've got seating around here, of course. You might notice these holes here. The reason for these is you can drop a backrest into there and make this into a sort of double-sided area. The table folds out. Lovely place to come and dine, especially if you are stern two-berthed in the Med, as we are right now. Anchor chain, anchor winch, all that is up here, of course. I do like these fairleads. Look at the shape of these. They're really designer, aren't they? And you can see that sort of inverse sloped windscreen very clearly from here as well. Let's head on right round. That trawler yacht style, again, you can see in things like these overhangs. And look at the way that they actually sort of upholstered these. This is actually like a microfiber material, so it's designed to get wet. But it's just a little nicer than having bare GRP there. And that goes all the way through here and all the way across the overhang, like so. These steps then will take us up to the Flybridge. And again, some nice features like the way they put this feature panel onto here. We've got the hard top. We've got the extending sunshade. I think that's an option if I remember rightly. And then they've kept the back of this completely open for freestanding furniture. You can put whatever you like out here. It's becoming a very popular theme to do that. And also, they've gone with sort of like an infinity view out of the back. Rather than having all the rails around like you've got on the boat next door, for example, you've just got these glass panels. So you've got a tremendous view across the back of the boat. Brilliant when you're at anchor. Let's come right out here and take this all in, because it's a pretty decent size, to say the least. Look at that. There's a dining area up here, and there's a bar area as well. That's on this side. And so this is where you have things like the barbecue underneath there, ice maker, fridge, and so on. Little sink up here as well. And this is storage around here. That is the big dining table. Of course, you put director's chairs if you want to sit all the way around that. And if we head on forward again, we will find the upper helm. Now this mirrors the one on the main deck, because you've got these two big multifunction screens, one each side. And then of course throttles, IPS controller, bow and stern thruster, all that kind of stuff is here. That little chap there is a scan strut charger, so you can drop a phone into there. These are neat. I've got one of these on my boat. Like so, and it charges it and holds it in place. Nifty, huh? That's about the only similarity of my boat, but there we are. Helm seat up here, and great places for people to come and sit and enjoy the ride. As I say, a lot of these would be owner operated. You can take crew, but at this sort of size, most people are running these themselves. Anyway, talking of crew, there is a crew cabin. We'll head on back and we'll finish off with the brilliant feature that I mentioned. There was two of them. We've seen one, I'll show you the other. So back down here and we'll head across. And this then is the access to the crew cabin. So we drop into here. And you've actually got two beds in here. I think as standard there are one, and if I remember rightly, you can have the top one as an option. because a lot of these boats would only have maybe a captain and nothing more, so you might want more headroom rather than 2 beds. And then in here there is the toilet. There's a shower in there, of course. You've got a wash basin out here, and then hanging locker and other storage in places like this. So we're going to head for the engine space now, and I'm going to show you the other brilliant thing on the way. Because if we come around here and head down this side, you know how beach clubs are becoming all the rage, and rightly so, I think, because you go boating to be near the water, so that's where you want to be, as Maggie is, right at water level. But look at this for a beach club. This is an optional extra. As standard you'd have storage, but if you prefer, you slide these open and you've got this area. Now you can have this as a bed, as it is at the minute, and that's giving you a 4th cabin, or you can lift this up and that becomes a backrest, and that is a lovely, lovely area. You can sit here and you really are right down at water level. The water is just slightly lower than that pontoon that that lady's just walked across. You've got air conditioning in here. If you've got a Mercedes, you might recognise these. There's a fridge in here as well, so you can keep some drinks in here, bits of storage about the place. And there's also an ensuite over on this side. So that's down there. But can you imagine waking up in the morning to a view out across the water when you're at anchor? That would just be blissful. Now if we step down here, you've got a sink in here, you've got the loo. Now you are quite low in the boat here. It's extremely unlikely, but if you were somehow to take a wave over the back, and that's not as easy as you'd think, because if you have a wave with the boat just rises up over it. People say, well, surely a wave's going to come crashing through. It isn't going to happen unless you somehow manage to get stern onto a breaking wave. But even if you did, which is pretty damn unlikely, they've put a really high lip so the water can't go further forward. And that's why, when we open this, it's a big step over into the engine room. So that's just a safety feature. You should never need it, but it's just a sort of final line of defense. And then in here, these are the motors. They're IPS 1350s. They're 1,000 horsepower each, and they are on pod drives, of course. That's what the IPS stands for. I can't remember exactly what IPS stands for. IPS. Come on, Burnham. Something propulsion system. Intelligent propulsion system? I'm going to look that up later. Perhaps I'll put it in the comments. But yeah, these are the engines. The pods are down underneath. You can see the top of them there. I think I mentioned these are 1,000 horsepower each. That is giving you, in terms of performance, about 27 knots flat out, cruising at 24 knots. And a range at that kind of speed of around sort of 200, 250 miles. Now, it is a trawler style of boat, and what a lot of people do with these is drop the speed right back to displacement speed, so maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 knots, somewhere around there. And then you probably take that range up to sort of 500, 600, 700 miles. So it just depends how you want to operate the boat. You go fast, you don't get as far. You drop the speed back, you get much further. You've got stabiliser in here, gyro stabiliser. There's a generator as well. I saw that somewhere. Oh yes, we walked past it as we came in. That's over there. Fuel filters where you can get to them easily. Big fuel tanks and all the electronics across the back. And the other things that you have in here, there's a ladder here that takes you straight up and into the cockpit. There's even a camera. You see that little red light up there? That's saying that camera is on, so that when you're at the helm you can dial into it on the multifunction displays and just check your engine room while you're underway, make sure everything is okay. So there we go. Let's come back out of here. Come on round. Into this area. Close that big fella up. There we go. And we'll finish off here, I think, at the beach club. I love that. I think that is absolute genius. As ever, huge thanks to you guys for watching, and thanks also to Absolute Yachts for organising this tour for us. Let me know what you think of this one. I think it's an intriguing boat. I'd be interested in your thoughts, and we'll catch you on another one of these very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.